Culinary Delights. I'm Glisten and this is my first video. Today I wanted to share a very special recipe with you that I get comments about every single year. Every year I like to give a neighbor gift to friends and family that live in our area, and I put together a package with salsa, guacamole, and a pack of chips. And I wrap it up nice and tidy just like this, and then have a little nifty gifty for our neighbors and friends. So today I want to share some of my roots and share that recipe with you. Let's get started on the salsa. Normally when I make my salsa, I use my molcajete. Now a molcajete is basically in English a pestle and mortar. And when you use a molcajete for your salsa, it makes the salsa nice and chunky. It gives it a really authentic flavor. So that's how I normally use my salsa. Today I'm going to do it a little bit differently, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a blender because most of you don't have one of these at home. But I really suggest that you invest in one of these if you're going to make salsa often. But let's get started on the veggies. For this salsa today, we're going to use 3 tomatoes. We're going to use a jalapeno and then 2 serrano peppers. Also, you're going to have an onion. I had a full onion, but I cut this one in half because we're only going to use half of it. And then you're going to use a bulb of garlic. First and foremost, what we're going to do is we're going to take these veggies and I'm going to stick them on my grill. I like to put them on the grill because it gives them a nice char and it gives them a nice grill flavor, and it makes the salsa a lot more delicious. So I'm going to take these veggies out in our backyard and I'm going to put them on the grill for a little bit, and then we'll come back and I'll show you what you need to do next. Alright, so I just pulled these off the grill. I don't know if you can see them, but you've got a good char on the outside of the tomatoes, also on the outside of the jalapeno and the serranos. I'm going to let this chill for a little bit and then we will come back to it. So I let the tomatoes and the onions and everything chill just a little bit so that it's not really hot when you put it in the blender. And I'm just going to show you an easy way to do the salsa to make it chunky. So it's like the molcajete salsa, but easier. So first we're going to get those tomatoes, and we are going to core out the top of it, which, here it is. Okay. We're going to core out the top of the tomato because you don't want that in your salsa. Just take that out, that aside. All right, now the trick to make the salsa nice and chunky before you stick it in the blender is to just chop up the tomatoes just a little bit to make it easier to blend, and that way you only have to pulse it a few times. So I'm gonna get these tomatoes and I'm just gonna plop them in our blender. You wanna keep those skins on so you get the nice char from the grill in your salsa. Alright, next you're going to get that half of an onion and you're going to just chop off that heel. Chop off the onions just a little bit so that when you stick it in the blender they blend nice and small. Alright, stick that in your blender as well. Next up we have that roasted garlic, and we're going to put 2 cloves in there. Then we have that serrano pepper that we roasted. Like I said earlier, if you don't want it as spicy, you can take the seeds out. I'm going to leave the seeds in for our salsa. And then we have that jalapeno. And for the jalapeno, I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'm just going to do about half of the jalapeno. You don't want it to be too spicy. Alright, then we have that lime. We'll just chop that in half, squeeze that lime, and we're going to use the whole lime for this. So I'm going to just pour in all the juice from that lime. Alright, then I'm just going to take a handful of this cilantro that I chopped up. A couple handfuls. spoonfuls. Put that in there. All right, so next is gonna be a teaspoon of salt. Sprinkle that in there. And then I'm just going to do a small sprinkle of the cumin. You don't want it to taste too much like cumin. So just a little sprinkle. There we go. All right, so we'll put our lid on here. All right, so before I blend this, just a little disclaimer. If you like thin, more runny salsa, then you don't really want to do the pulse. You can just let it blend until it's the consistency that you want it. If you want the salsa to look more like a molcajete salsa, then you can just do a few pulses, which is what I'm going to do. So. So that was about 6 pulses that I did. All right, so I'm just going to get the salsa and stick it in this bowl. And we're gonna do a taste test and one last step. All right, last part that we're going to do is we're going to taste this and check for the acidity. A lot of times the tomatoes that you get, some can be more acidic than others. And so if it is really acidic, one way to counteract that is to put a little bit of sugar. Usually I'll put a teaspoon of sugar into it, but I like to taste it first. So let's give it a little taste test. Just a little acidic, so what I'm gonna do is put just a teaspoon of sugar into that salsa. Grab a clean spoon, go ahead and mix that sugar in. All right, I'll do a little taste test with just a chip. That's perfect. That's really good. If you like it a little spicy, that's just perfect. Like I said before, if you want it less spicy, take those seeds out and you'll have a really good mild salsa. Now for the guacamole. The best part about doing these recipes together is you get to use some of the ingredients that you roasted for the salsa in the guacamole, which makes it taste, you get the grill taste too. So first things first, we have 3 avocados. These are just the medium-sized avocados, but you can get 2 large ones or whatever you can find at the grocery store. And then I'm going just to split them in half. And then after you split them, you have this half with the seed in it. And the easy way to get the seed out is to just pound your knife on it and then twist. Then you'll get the seed out easy. And then you can toss those. Next thing you're gonna do is you're just gonna use a spoon and you're going to get all the avocado out away from the skin. Next thing you're going to do is you are going to use a potato masher and you just mash up those avocados. Some people like it thicker, some people like it more creamy. So however thick you like it, just mash it up a little bit. Good. All right, this next part, we're going to get the lime. And a good way to get a trick for the limes is to get more juice out. If you just roll it a little bit before you cut it, you'll get more juice. So let's just cut that lime. And I'll use my little juicer. You're only going to use about half of the lime. I will juice both of them, both halves, just in case. Right, once you've got that juice, you're going to get the garlic and you're going to mince it. We're going to just mince it into the avocado mixture. All right, next step is we've got some of the other half of that onion that we used for the salsa. We're going to use in this, and we did not roast this half. It's going to be a little bit of a crunch to the guacamole. And so I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons of that onion in here. Same with the cilantro. We're going to do a couple of tablespoons. In there. Put the lime juice inside the guacamole. Okay. Here we have one of the roasted serrano peppers that we put on the grill for the salsa we're going to use, and we're going to cut it up and put it into the guacamole. So how we cut it up is I'm just going to chop it like this and then get a good chop on it. If you don't like guacamole that's too spicy, you can take the seeds out of the pepper and that will make it less spicy. So I'll just stick it on the blade and put that in to the guacamole. All right, and then last but not least, we're going to do a half a teaspoon of salt. So just measure it out. All right, then we're just gonna mix this up. All the ingredients incorporated. The best thing about making salsa and guacamole is it's to your taste. So if you like it spicy, then put more jalapeno, more serranos. If you don't like it spicy, then you can cut stuff out too. Same with the salt. If you like things more salty, you can put more salt. If you like extra cilantro, then you can put more cilantro, whatever works best for you. This is just the recipe that I go off of. I'm going to do a taste test and I'll use a chip. That's perfect. A little bit spicy, so if you don't like it as spicy as I do, then you can take some of that serrano pepper out, but otherwise it's perfect. All right, and so this is what that amount that we just made yields in a 16-ounce jar. If you are over ambitious like me, you can double, triple, quadruple that recipe and make a lot more. I made enough for 14 friends and neighbors, and I used 60 avocados. So I'll show you that later in the video on how much I ended up with. Thank you very much for watching this video where I made salsa and guacamole. I usually like to finish this product up by getting a bag of chips and wrapping it up nice and tidy for our neighbors and our friends. I will have the recipes in the description below. Please make sure to like and subscribe and check that little bell so you get notifications on all our future videos. Thank you very much.